Hi, I'm Ann Delisi.
And I'm Chef James Rigato.
And in this episode of Essential Cooking, James and I talk with Brennan Calnin, owner of Satellite Food Truck. He's also responsible for opening a couple of notable restaurants in the region, Imperial and Townhouse. Brennan spoke with us about the pros and cons of having a food truck, which he learned firsthand after launching his own food truck, Satellite. We also talk about how supply chain disruptions are affecting restaurants and the growing popularity of vegan food. You've been in this area for a while now.
Yep.
And what has changed in the last few years, would you say, that you've noticed the biggest changes in the culinary landscape in Metro Detroit?
I moved to the Metro Detroit to open up Imperial. So the first 3 years in Metro Detroit were spent primarily in Ferndale.
Right.
But having opened up a couple things downtown, I mean, man, the amount of restaurants that have opened up, it's trying to keep track of them now. It's difficult. And there's so many. I would say that the talent level in Detroit is really elevated as well. Everything from chefs to sommeliers to bartenders. I mean, the craft cocktail scene, kind of an overused word, but I mean, it's blown up. So just the sheer amount of talent and like the landscape has changed quite a bit. Mm-hmm. Every neighborhood has a number of places to go to now, whereas it used to be you go strictly downtown or you go to Corktown or you go,
So after Imperial, remind me your first, was it?
I took over a public house
That's right.
after it opened, and then I left and I went and did Townhouse.
Townhouse, that's
which
right.
was an experience.
Yeah, so Brennan opened Townhouse, downtown Detroit, an incredibly ambitious dining room size restaurant.
It's so much bigger than what you were used to.
It was an experience to say the least.
Yeah. I mean, he's an ambitious guy, and I think that especially for the first concept down in Detroit, that was a big project, and that was a heavy lift.
What are the downsides to having a food truck opposed to a restaurant, and the upsides to having a food truck opposed to a restaurant?
Well, let's talk about the upsides first. I think you get flexibility like never before. I mean, if Dream Cruise is going on and your restaurant is on Woodward, you just pick up and move your restaurant. You move your food truck a couple blocks away to where it's going to work. You can chase if you want to. You can chase money in a food truck. I mean, you can do all the festivals. You can be really, if you can work as hard as you want. If you want to be open 7 days a week, you can do that. Drawbacks. There are a lot of drawbacks. I mean, like let's be honest. Like you have a little box that's running your hood system, your refrigerators, everything. If one thing goes down, you're kind of done for the day. Like in a restaurant, your hot water heater goes out for a couple hours. You can boil some water to do dishes. If our generators stop working, there's no service. It doesn't happen. If our hood vents go down, there's no quick fix. Our truck is 150 degrees. You just fall right. We also, I would say we only have so much money because our margin is that much tighter. So like if something big is to happen, it's really, it would be really detrimental to us. Mm-hmm. But I think we've found for us, and the first couple of weeks as any business, you experience every little thing that can go wrong. I mean, our first event, the generators weren't working. Next thing it was just every day. And at first I was pulling my hair out. I'm like, I did not know it's going to be like this. Our fryers wouldn't start, Once you figure out your equipment and get over the hump, the ability to just pivot your business has been so fun for us. Being creative with when your margins are tight, you got to get creative with your food costs. And being a chef, I'm the chef of the group. That's been really great in being creative and saving money. It's really rewarding when you make money, but when you make it with just 3 people, it's
Talk about your menu.
Okay, our menu. I mean, we do. So Satellite, the name of our business, we like to joke that we serve the food of planet Earth because we've got this. we have a really kind of eclectic menu. It's all over the place. We do some vegan stuff.
Oh, nice.
We do like a vegan banh mi. We do a vegan cheesesteak. We make the cashew cheese. We make the seitan. We do everything from scratch that we can. Outside the bread, we use crispelis, but we make our own bacon for our party potatoes, which are like this fried potato, salt-baked potatoes with a queso that we make, and we smoke the poblanos that go in there, and bacon furikake. But then we got a burger. Our flagship sandwich, so the thing I'd probably talk about the most is our piri-piri chicken, which is it's been really interesting to research. We started doing a lot of research last year about all this, but piri piri chicken is such a unique. It's really big in Canada, in Montreal, and piri piri is a very small chili pepper. And the marinade we bought about probably 10 of them, and everyone tastes different. So it's a really bright marinade. It's really popular in North Africa, but we do ours with preserved lemon and piri piri chilies, and then grilled peppers and grilled onions. And so you get this chicken that is spicy, and then there's a really bright lemony flavor that gets fried potatoes, and then a cabbage salad that we do chimichurri with. So it's this. James had the chicken sandwich a couple times. It's just it's a flavor
fantastic.
bomb.
You know, I think it's also it's like 2 meals. I mean, it's a monster.
It's big, yeah.
And I mean, obviously, you know, food truck dudes. I think you guys are, you know, you're doing the right thing, like selling a monster sandwich.
Yeah.
I mean, that thing is like, it's so massive. I can obviously eat.
Well,
a lot,
it's the thing that we try. The thing that's difficult with a food truck, right, is that you want to give perceived value, but you also don't want to like cheapen the experience by not giving. You know, by just buying a product you're not proud of. So
you also don't want. I mean, you also don't want to like undersell and be like, I can only eat the chicken, and your food's so delicious. I usually over order and then take it home. Eat it all day.
Yeah,
but for real. But I mean, like if you're a price conscious person, or if you're looking for like a value.
Yeah.
Then I mean that sandwich to me is. I mean, I think it's.
I tell a lot of people
too.
When they come up and they're like, "Hey, what can I get? You know, what are a couple of things I want to eat now, and then I want to eat something later." I'm like, "Well, piri piri chicken, you can eat half now, and it eats great cold, or it eats great if you reheat it." So,
how do you know, like when it comes to how much food you think you're going to sell, depending on where you go?
There.
I mean, well, you look at here's the thing for us, and this is I've said this before, and running a really busy, like a restaurant that's balls to the wall from 9 to close is actually kind of the easiest to run.
True.
Because you know exactly what you're going to do every day. You can only do so much business on a given day of the week based on your staff. So you can only sell so much food. So like there was a time when I was at Imperial, it was really easy. I would just every day I would order like max out.
Just max out.
Because I can max out. I can fit this much in my cooler. And it's kind of the same with a food truck in the sense when you're doing big events. The difficult ones are like when we have our little humble spot we call the landing pad, which is on our website, satellitehospitality.com. But, those are the tough days. We're like, well, are we going to do like a really slow day, or are we going to get caught off guard and get hit? And I guess the good thing is we can always, since we're a food truck, that's another thing, talking about advantages. If you had leftover food that you wanted to sell, you can open up the next day. You got a bonus day. You got a bonus day, to sell your food. But it's not easy, and it's not, I'll say, with the supply chain right now, that it is.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It makes it difficult at times. But again, being a food truck and we're all the owners of our business, if we can't get the French fries we want, we just change to a different French fry, and we are polite to our customers. I know you want waffle fries. We're doing sweet potato fries. Sorry, that's what it is.
Black perspectives haven't always been centered in the telling of America's story. Now, we're taking center stage. Introducing NPR's Black Stories, Black Truths, a collection of Black-led stories from NPR's podcasts. Search NPR Black Stories, Black Truths wherever you get your podcasts.
You and I have talked a lot more about the food supply, the food chain, and getting food, and it doesn't sound like it's getting any better.
Honestly, it's gotten worse, and it's interesting because for a while there, during the initial shutdown of 2020, it was really like the first thing was oversupply. If you remember pictures of the Idaho potato farmers, they had and they're rotting.
Right.
Yeah. Now it's getting to a point where it's China's shutting down a lot, so there's a lot of overseas shrimp or things like that. Even like charcoal you can't get right now. There's a lot of things that come over on barges that are shut down because ports are shut down, and then we don't have enough labor to even unload. So, I know if you're trying to order a couch right now, there's problems.
Right.
There's a lot of issues like that. And unfortunately, the international shipping business affects food. significantly,
Yeah.
especially if you think about things like, frozen items or,
Right.
overseas seafood. It's
Maybe
it's,
that weird avocado lime shortage that was going on.
what's
Like,
funny?
but it's not like.
What's funny too? Honestly, the lime shortage, it was like, honestly, it was like cartel. It was like,
Yeah, I know.
which is crazy, and that's unfortunate. But no, the cartel
not
were
that
like,
funny.
they were basically hijacking. There was like a lime shortage, I think, for like some agricultural reasoning, and then the limes shot up in price. So then the lime trucks basically started getting like robbed or
They were
taken
jacking
over.
the lime trucks and then selling them back to the farmers at 4 times the cost.
It's like that is a weird issue.
It was a very bizarre.
And
or Subway did the avocado. They did like a guacamole month one month.
Yeah, and then
the price. And I'm like, what is the deal with the price of
Subway
avocados?
bought all the
They're like,
avocados.
yeah, Subway's doing an avocado special. I'm like,
which is silly, but that's
these are conversations
I know
you wouldn't have had. You would not. I would imagine as chefs, you would have never thought you would ever.
you wouldn't
have.
think that you're not going to
Like
get your
this-
Velveeta.
yeah.
like this
that's
lime thing.
yeah.
We're in
That's true.
America, and like when Velveeta doesn't show up, you're
You're
like,
like, is this real?
fake American. Like this is fake, and I'm not getting it. Like,
Yeah.
it's just those type of things are.
It's bizarre the things that they're running out of, and I think that it's only going to continue. It's going to continue I think this is for years because the food system's been broken for so long, but there's always been like, somebody being abused to keep it connected. And like, all of our broken systems have been so exposed that some of them have completely collapsed.
I think there's a silver lining to it though, and that it's gonna
Local
We're
food.
gonna see local food
Totally.
and local farmers, and in a state like Michigan's got a pork industry, but like you're gonna see some of these local industries and local smaller operations start to do better. I think when creative chefs start going around like, okay, I don't want to use this mainliner anymore because it's not reliable. Can I piece together a couple local companies that can do the same thing? And I think you're going to see that happening quite a bit.
And that's a great point. I think that hopefully it's holistic because you want to have the public also buy a chicken and not seek a chicken breast or like eat more vegan food, especially in the summertime,
right.
Or at least like fill their, tables with things that are in season.
Yep.
Maybe go home and pickle some vegetables with the kids because you went to the farmer's market.
We've used
and bought too
tomatoes
much.
out of Finney's garden.
Yeah.
Because they're great and we got enough and we
totally.
can do it. I mean,
That's the best. Homegrown tomatoes are the best.
In fact,
thing in the world.
a good example of there are a lot of food trucks operate off of they either drive to Restaurant Depot because you save a bunch of money. So you drive out there, that's where you save a little bit of money driving out there. To me, your time is worth money, so I don't like doing that route. Or you pick a mainliner and you get everything from that mainliner because
like
again you
Gordon's or
get
Cisco or US Foods.
They give you they kick so they do things and they make it easy as a one-stop shop.
Except you remember that Cisco shut down.
That's what I was just going to say. When your one-stop shop fails,
like Cisco,
and you
did.
don't have another plan or thing that you're used to doing, that's another thing that can
toast.
really throw a bunch
You're
of
toast.
trucks into a spiral. We are fortunate again that we have a lot of experience, so we run it. We use Crispelli's for bread. We pay more for our bread, but we get a better product, and we can drive and pick it up.
It's down the street.
And they can come help us up on the back end. And things happen. The power went out there a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
That was a real bummer. But then we go out and we shop. And those, I think having those relationships with local vendors, which I've figured out over 10 years, as a chef, and it's been great because all right, your power is out, I'll call my next, rep who's a friend. And I think that we learned that you can run a food truck that way.
And I think a lot of these restaurants and food trucks, I mean, they need to stop having laminated permanent menus.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it got to a point where it's like, all right, if this hits a weird thing, like a point where we quite literally, vegans are really coming up to the truck. Maybe we do a fried tofu thing. And we completely switch from doing 4 meat options. Maybe we'll switch and lead into our vegans, and we'll do some vegan fries.
Well, isn't it? I think that this is an interesting. What a time to be alive, where there's entire concepts for businesses with thousands of locations based off of animal parts. Like Buffalo Wild Wings. Like their whole concept is just animal wings. It's just that.
Yeah.
That to me is just a wild time to be alive. I mean, I the older I get, the more I like lean vegan. Like my future is absolutely vegan.
Amanda and I were having this conversation over dinner the other day. I mean, I think it's only a matter of time before I eat vegetarian, and then for the health. I mean, as I get older too. I mean, I just turned 38. I mean, the health benefits. But I have 2 dogs. I don't know that Amanda and I are going to have kids. Maybe we will. Maybe we won't. But like, we're pretty passionate about animals, and the older I get, the more and more. I mean, I stopped eating, not completely, but I don't eat as much pork these days. I get a little bit more and more conscious of it.
Well, if you spend time with animals, you visit farms. I mean, if you're available if you make yourself available and watch animal slaughtering, or if you visit,
That's what changed my.
It really. I mean, if we had to kill the animals we consumed, I think you'd have a lot less frivolous.
You do it one
dining.
time when Mark Baker was doing the great. I can't think of the heritage pigs that were up right outside Traverse City.
Pig stock.
And we did a Mangalista pig from front to back. When you see an animal running around with its animals, enjoying itself, and then it's killed, and it's done with the utmost respect. It was an incredible process, but it'll forever change the way you view eating it. And so I just think, I think what's important is that as long as people continue to like grow, it sounds again kind of corny or utopian, but grow as human beings and maybe at least be willing to step outside and think differently. You know, if I could eat a chicken wing that was everything that a chicken wing is, but it was, I don't know, a powder or whatever it's going to be, I would do it. I mean, I don't have the ego. I'm like, well, this isn't the real thing. It's like, well, no, but it's close, and it's, I could feel better about that. So I don't know. I think I said years ago, I think that vegan restaurants are going to really be one of the things we start to see pop up a lot. The movement is gaining.
Yeah, I mean, we do Vegan Month, obviously. At the restaurant,
we just had that.
It just wrapped up. I mean, we were completely booked every single day. So it was.
Damon was at it, and he said it was outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, this is our. I don't even know how many years we've done it. Yeah, you just came last week.
It was great.
But to me, that I get a thrill out of it, and I feel like eventually I'm going to just like. I'm just gonna tell the staff like Vegan Month is never gonna end.
Well, I think you made a post recently that you were talking about cooking vegan food and starting at Imperial. We had a seitan taco, and we would do alternating vegetarian or vegan specials. So I've always felt that it's important that those people have a voice, because a lot of restaurants, especially when we came up, someone would come in to be a vegan or vegetarian and they would get a pasta with a bunch of mixed vegetables.
Yeah,
that was like the routine, and it's just like. It was lame, especially when you worked at a nice restaurant. You're like,
right.
Wow, we don't even take one more step like for those people. And I don't know. I just think it's going to be the next thing. I think it's a challenge to cook vegan, like a fun challenge. But you had said in your post it was about having, you need a bunch of different textures and different. Maybe it's chili paste, or maybe it's harisa's, or it's.
Yeah.
And man, when you combine all those different textures and spicy and maybe it's sweet or whatever it is. You are going to experience things that you can't necessarily experience in a meat dish, because a meat dish is going to hit you over the head with unctuousness or fattiness, and sometimes you just really want as clean as possible.
Yeah,
and you can still do heavy vegan food too. I mean, we do a Philly cheesesteak.
Yeah,
and you'll be hard pressed to know the difference. I mean, really.
What do you make it with? How do you make it?
We make our own seitan, which is vital wheat gluten, cashew flour, and then nutritional yeast for kind of that umami like protein that you're looking for. And then we use a number of spices, and we cook it in like a vegan beef broth too for our seitan one. And then for our sham, we call it sham. It's our seitan ham. Same process. We boil it with a number of different ingredients in the beef one, obviously, the imitation beef one. But then we roast that one like you would roast a ham. We score it and glaze it, and then we smoke it for 2 hours. So we put. I mean, and Finney takes care of those, and I mean those two processes alone take a lot of time, and you can put just as much attention into vegan food that you can for charcuterie. I mean, like honestly, it takes us just as long to do that as it does for me to make a torchon. Yeah, it's like just as long of a process, and it's it's obviously infinitely better for you and the environment. Yeah, and they eat. I mean, not the Philly cheesesteak, but on a hot day, the banh mi, the vegan banh mi is an awesome sandwich. And you can walk and eat it, and it's great. Yeah, it's kind of cool. Like, and so if you ever get a banh mi, and not all banh mi's are kind of they're different, different places you go, but it typically has a schmear of like chicken liver mousse, and that's what we're talking about. Yeah, Brennan basically puts a schmear of bean puree, which as you eat it is surprisingly. It's almost like, whoa, this similar, is like, you're like, we street, you hit it with a little bit more olive oil and you puree it, so you kind of up the fattiness, and there's enough. I mean, beans are all protein. Yeah. So I don't know. I love beans. I swear. Me too. It's like I use Sheridan Acre beans out of Bad Axe, and our farmer Kevin. I mean, like
They're the most beautiful. The beans are dried are the most beautiful things I've ever seen. They're like little pearls or marbles or something.
Yep.
And then they're beans. Once you boil them, they kind of like dull
They
out.
just like
and
look opaque. That was look opaque at the end.
I'm always sad. I'm like, oh man, like they're just like gray at the end.
Cattle beans are those ones that are like purple with the white spots. I think.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the calypsos. He's got. I mean, there's so many of his beautiful dapple grays. I mean, oh my god, his beans are gorgeous. And then they always just look gray or brown.
Yep.
Yeah, I want to just eat them raw.
It sounds like vegan cooking really pushes you to be more creative and to be really thoughtful. I mean, let's face it, it's easy to take a piece of meat and do a couple things to it and,
totally.
But to really like think about how am I going to make this interesting? How am I going to make this? I mean, because the thing when you do Vegan Month and I never sit there going, boy, I wish I had a chicken leg with this. You don't miss it. You're not even, your brain doesn't say, I want that animal protein. And that's a testament to how the food is prepared because it's exciting, because it's flavorful. And I think that if people thought more about that part of it, I think it's got to be intimidating. It is a lot more work. I mean, it's just vegetables are more work.
It's funny though, and yet you are right. It's like more. I feel like it definitely takes more thought because I was raised as an omnivore. But once you're tapped in, I feel like it's actually easier. My favorite part about Vegan Month is there's like no contamination.
Right.
There's no risk of this.
Oh, that's
chicken.
great. I never thought about that.
So like my cooler just becomes this like no stress. It's just, you just
everything
you
lives together.
Yeah, and I think I also love. I mean, I can just dump money on like local products.
Yeah,
I mean, like I call a farmer, like, we've been using Cherry Capital. I'm like, I need 200 pounds of heirloom tomatoes this week. I need 150 pounds of cauliflower.
Yeah.
I need 6 cases of cucumber. You're just like crushing product and you're just throwing money at like the local agricultural economy. You came in and got 8 courses. And I mean, I think I want you to leave full, but I think half hour later, you're like, you feel good.
Oh, there's no doubt. You don't have that heavy feeling.
Yeah.
You're like, you're satisfied, but you don't feel like, oh boy, I overdid it. This feels terrible.
Totally.
It's just interesting to me. And I think that people might get intimidated by it or think they're going to miss something if they don't, if they go vegan, especially people that love cheese or eggs or what have you, that's another step, that's
it's certainly scary to think about
I
it.
think
people
that's
that love,
interesting.
but those things and you're not wrong at all. But when you say like, oh, I love like cheese, you love a salty, rich, nappe texture on your tongue.
That's a great way.
So like, who doesn't?
Yeah.
So you like rich and creamy. That's okay. Peanut butter is rich and creamy. Like there's a lot of things that like
hummus is rich and creamy.
Yeah, like you're not. It's like I don't think it's cheese. I feel like dairy is one of the easier things to give up because there's so many things. Like coconut milk is like, so rich and unctuous.
Giving up cheese would be, being from Wisconsin, giving up cheese would be, and that's like not just a cliche.
Here we go.
But I wanted to riff real quick on the vegan thing, because one thing that I think is really neat about cooking vegan is it's such a new, there's a vegan culinary tradition that goes on for millennia, and obviously India and China and people that have had civilizations for way longer. But in the United States, we one of our only food movements is like barbecue, and so like veganism in the United States, that I'm saying, it forces you to read. It forces you to step outside your comfort zone and go to an ethnic restaurant. You're going to become a better human being eating vegan because you're going to step out of your comfort zone. You're gonna try new things. If you decide you're gonna be vegan and only eat, I don't know, bread and tomato sauce and
Americana
mozzarella, you're not gonna be a vegan. You just won't. You'll fall back into eating meat.
Right.
And if you do, that's fine. I'm not saying. I'm not a vegan. I'm here talking about, but I think veganism is really cool, and I do think it's like a big part of what's gonna be part of our futures.
You can definitely rely on Satellite and Mabel Gray to continue to push vegan food on our menus.
Yeah, certainly.
But so
we also have a great burger.
Our thanks to Brennan Calnin for joining us, to you for listening, and
we would like to thank La Marca Prosecco for their support. From the hills of Veneto, Italy, you can never go wrong with Prosecco, whether it's in a spritz or drinking straight.
Joan Isabella is our executive producer, with producer David Lyons. Editing, mixing, and mastering by Sam Bobian. Original music by the Mallet Brothers. This is a production of WDET, Detroit's NPR station.